My best friend's mom said, "Don't tell him what we did." I never planned for this to happen. I never even imagined it. But now, a year later, I still haven't told a soul. Not Kyle, not anyone. And maybe that's because I still don't fully understand what it was, or maybe I just don't want to face what it meant. It didn't start with anything dramatic. No sudden spark, no forbidden kiss. It started on a couch during a basketball game with greasy food and half-laughed trash talk. Kyle was my best friend had been since middle school. His house was practically my second home. His mom, Jenna, was always just Mrs. Callahan, the woman who made the best nachos and reminded us to clean up our mess. That night, though, something shifted. Kyle passed out early on the couch, and I figured I'd crash too. But Jenna came out of nowhere, quiet, calm, and offered the guest room. It was late. I was tired. I didn't think anything of it, until I couldn't sleep. I went to the kitchen for some water, and there she was sitting alone at the table in her robe, nursing a cup of tea, like it was the only thing holding her together. She looked up, surprised, and smiled like she hadn't smiled in a while. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. That's when it began. Not the affair, not the drama, just the shift. The space between us changed. We talked. About school, about life, about feeling stuck. And then she opened up. About being a mom, a wife, a woman who used to dream but forgot how. Sometimes I wonder who I even... That conversation in the kitchen lasted nearly an hour, and it changed everything, even though nothing actually happened that night. We didn't touch. We didn't flirt. But when Jenna finally looked at the clock and told me I should try to get some sleep, it felt like a strange kind of ending. Not to a moment, but to the way things had always been. I lay awake for a long time in that guest room. The bed was comfortable, but my mind wasn't. I kept replaying her voice in my head the way she'd said, "Sometimes I wonder who I even am anymore." That hit me. Harder than I wanted to admit. I thought about how lonely she must feel in her own house, her husband always gone, her son drifting further into his own life. And for the first time, I stopped thinking of her as just Kyle's mom. She was Jenna now, a person, a woman, and I couldn't shake that thought. After that weekend, things slowly shifted. A few days later, I got a text from her. "Jenna. Hey, random question. Are you free tomorrow? I need help moving some boxes. Kyle's not around." It didn't seem weird. Kyle was often at his girlfriend's or away at college. I figured it was just a quick favor. I replied, "Sure, no problem." When I showed up, she greeted me at the door with a smile more relaxed than I was used to seeing her. She handed me a cup of coffee before we even started. "Sit for a sec," she said. "I've been rearranging things and could use a break." We sat in the living room and once again we talked. Not small talk, real talk. About her. About how life didn't feel like hers anymore. She said she felt like she was disappearing into the background, like people only saw her when something needed to be done. I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. I think that meant more than anything I could have said. After we finished the boxes, she didn't just thank me and send me off. She asked me if I wanted to hang out a bit. Then she pulled out an old board game one Kyle and I used to play when we were younger. I laughed, genuinely surprised. "You kept this?" "Of course. You boys used to get so competitive," she smiled. So we played. And it wasn't weird. Not exactly. It just felt good, familiar, comfortable. We joked, we laughed, and I noticed the way her eyes lit up when she smiled. Somewhere along the line, I stopped seeing her as someone else's mom and started seeing her as someone I genuinely enjoyed being around. That's when it started, this strange slow-motion unraveling, the kind that sneaks up on you. No one moment you can point to and say, "That's when it happened." Just dozens of moments that pile up quiet and steady until you realize something's changed and there's no going back. From then on, she'd reach out more often. Not a lot, just enough to notice. "Hey, could you help me set up the new TV? Can you fix this chair leg? It's driving me crazy." They were little things, nothing romantic, nothing that crossed any obvious lines, but it was the way she talked to me after. The way we'd sit down with coffee like it was a ritual now, how her voice softened when she asked about my life, how she listened, really listened like I mattered, And I started telling her things I hadn't even told Kyle, about how school felt like a dead end, how I wasn't sure what I was doing with my life, how sometimes I felt like I was just coasting through everything trying not to crash. She understood. She always understood. Then there was the Saturday afternoon that really set something in motion. I had just helped her put together a bookshelf, and we were sitting on the porch eating sandwiches she'd made. She was wearing a simple sweater and jeans, her hair tied up casually, no makeup. Just herself. She mentioned a book she was reading, and I joked about not being a big reader. She rolled her eyes. "You're missing out. You'd like this one. It's about someone trying to figure out who they really are after pretending for too long." I shrugged. Sounds familiar. She looked at me for a long second, then she said it. "You know you're easy to be around. I can breathe when you're here. You don't make me feel like I'm just Kyle's mom or someone's wife. You make me feel like me again." It wasn't flirty, it wasn't suggestive, but it hit me in the chest. I didn't know what to say, so I made some dumb joke to lighten the moment. We laughed. But that sentence stayed with me, still does. After that, I started noticing the way we looked at each other, just a second too long, or how our hands would brush when passing something, and we'd both pretend not to notice. It wasn't physical, but it was something. And whatever it was, it kept building. A few more weeks went by like that. Little moments, quiet rituals, familiar routines that felt more and more like something sacred, something secret. Until one Wednesday night. She texted, "Hey, can you come help me move some furniture I'm redecorating, and it's kind of a mess." I was already in my car before I replied. When I arrived, something felt different. Jenna seemed tense, nervous even. Still smiling, still warm, but with an energy I hadn't seen before, like she was unsure, or on the edge of something. We moved furniture. Nothing fancy, just a new layout for the living room, but the whole time we barely talked, not like we used to. The silence was louder than the usual conversation. When we finished, I went to grab my keys, but she stopped me. "Hey, could you stay a little longer?" The way she said it, soft, uncertain, made my heart skip. I nodded. We sat in the freshly rearranged room, both of us a little too quiet. Then she poured us glasses of wine. I wasn't expecting that. She never really drank around me. It felt new, unwritten. She handed me a glass. To new furniture, she joked, trying to ease the tension. We clinked glasses, took a sip, sat in silence. Then she said it, "I'm glad you're here." That wasn't a casual thing to say. It was full of meaning, full of weight. I looked at her, and for a second I almost asked what she meant, but I didn't, because I knew. And so did she. That night after the wine, something hung in the air between us, not just tension, but anticipation. A current neither of us acknowledged, but both of us deeply felt. We didn't touch. We didn't cross any lines. But when Jenna stood up to say goodnight, our eyes locked in that quiet, heavy moment that says more than any words could, and for a second, neither of us moved. Neither of us looked away. "I'll see you around," she said softly, breaking the silence. "Yeah," I replied, my voice low. "See you." I left with a storm behind my ribs, that familiar ache of knowing you're in too deep too soon and that it's already too late to pretend otherwise. After that, we stopped pretending there wasn't something different between us. We still never spoke it aloud, but our silences said everything. Every glance, every pause, every moment we lingered too long in the same space. And the scariest part, I didn't want to stop it. I started going over even more often. Sometimes she had excuses, needing help, setting up a new appliance, moving more furniture, reorganizing the garage. Sometimes she didn't. She'd just text, "Hey, you free?" and I'd come. There was one afternoon in particular that changed things for good. I'd helped her clean out the hallway closet. Old boxes, jackets. No one wore photo albums that hadn't been opened in years. After we finished, we sat down in the living room with iced tea. It was a sunny day, the windows open, and the house felt peaceful. She asked about a girl I'd been seeing briefly, someone from class. I told her it didn't work out. "Why not?" she asked. I hesitated. I don't know. Just didn't feel real. like we were both pretending to be more interested than we actually were. She nodded slowly. I get that. Then she looked at me and said, I don't feel like I have to pretend around you. That was the moment everything tilted, not dramatically, not with a kiss or some big confession, just a shared look that said, I see you, and you see me. From there, our time together took on a rhythm. We'd talk in low voices, share music, watch old movies, sit on the porch in comfortable silence. Sometimes I'd catch her staring at me when she thought I wasn't looking. Sometimes I did the same. It was intimacy without labels, without rules. But it was also dangerous, because Kyle still had no idea. One day he came home unexpectedly while I was helping Jenna fix a broken cabinet door. The way she looked at me when he walked in, the quick tension, the sudden stiffness told me everything. We were both scared of what he'd think, what we'd become. Kyle didn't suspect a thing. He greeted me like always, cracked a joke, headed to his room. But something inside me shifted. For the first time, I felt the weight of the line we were dancing on. That night, I almost texted Jenna to say we should stop. But I didn't. I couldn't. A few weeks later, I got another text. Jenna, wanna come by? I could use a break from the silence. When I showed up, the house was dim. Candles on the kitchen counter. Jazz playing quietly from the Bluetooth speaker. She greeted me with a tired smile. Rough day, I asked. Long one, she said. Stay a while. We ended up on the couch watching a movie neither of us paid attention to. Halfway through, she rested her head against my shoulder. She didn't ask, didn't speak, just leaned in like it was the most natural thing in the world. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. And when she exhaled softly and said, It's nice having someone who doesn't expect anything, I knew something was coming. Eventually, she turned toward me, legs folded beneath her, and said, Do you think people are ever truly ready for the things that change them? I looked at her, really looked. No. I think the change happens before they realize it. Her eyes didn't leave mine. Then she said it soft like a confession. If this ever came out, I think it would break Kyle. My chest tightened. I know. And I don't want to hurt you either. You're not, I said quickly, maybe too quickly. She took a shaky breath. But I'm afraid that if we keep going like this, someone's going to get hurt. We sat in that truth. Silent. Still. But I didn't leave. Neither did she. From that night forward, we lived in a suspended world. A place where nothing was official, but everything mattered. Where we spent hours together yet spoke like acquaintances when Kyle was around, where her hand would rest just a little too long on my shoulder when I said goodbye, but only when no one else was watching. We had become a secret we didn't know how to hold or release. Then came the night it all nearly collapsed. Kyle called me in the middle of the week and said, Hey, I think my mom's been acting weird lately. You notice anything? I froze. No, not really, I lied, fingers tightening around my phone. Maybe it's just me. I told myself that was the wake-up call I needed, that it was time to pull back, time to walk away before it all blew up. But then, Jenna called again. Jenna. Dinner tonight, I made too much. I almost said no, but I didn't. When I arrived, dinner was ready. The table was set for two. She wore a simple black top and jeans, her hair loose, her eyes tired but warm. We talked, we laughed, and the tension that had started weeks ago finally boiled over. After dinner, we stood at the sink washing dishes side by side, our hands brushed. We paused, looked at each other. Then she whispered, This has to stop, doesn't it? I nodded slowly. Probably. But we didn't move. And that's when she said the words that would echo in my head for months. If you never tell anyone, maybe this can just be ours. Our secret, our mistake, our truth. Whatever you want to call it, it was real. And I haven't told a soul. Not even Kyle. In the weeks that followed that dinner, nothing happened, and yet everything did. We didn't kiss. We didn't sleep together. But we existed in this quiet limbo, caught between what we were pretending not to feel and what we were too scared to act on. We stopped saying anything outright. We didn't need to. The way she'd look at me from across the room, the way her fingers would linger on mine when handing me a coffee mug, the way I'd pause every time I left her house hoping she'd ask me to stay just one more minute, it all said what our words wouldn't. And in that silence, the truth grew louder. I started skipping plans with friends. I told myself it was because I was busy. But really, I just wanted to be near her. Near that feeling. That quiet understanding. That impossible magnetic pull I'd never experienced before. I told myself it wasn't wrong because we weren't doing anything. But that's the lie I kept feeding myself to avoid facing the guilt. One night, Jenna texted, "I don't know how to breathe when you're not around lately. That's probably not okay." I didn't reply right away. I stared at the message for 15 minutes, the air heavy around me. I didn't know what to say because I felt the exact same way. When I finally responded, I kept it simple, I know. I feel it too. That was the first time we ever said it out loud. Not in person, not face to face, but in a digital space where it felt less dangerous. And then things changed. There was one Thursday night, late spring, the air warm, the sky bruised purple at dusk when everything unraveled. She had asked me to help put up shelves in Kyle's room while he was away for the weekend. I said yes without thinking. I always did. The job took about an hour. Afterward, she offered me dinner. I said sure. She poured wine again. We talked more lightly this time, more cautious. But there was something in the way she looked at me that felt final, like she was holding on to something she didn't know how to release. After dinner, we sat in the living room, the same room where this all began. The silence returned. And this time, it wasn't comfortable. It was expectant. She looked at me then away, then back again. Her jaw was tight. Her hands fidgeted in her lap. Finally, she said it. "I think I'm losing control of this." I swallowed hard. Me too. She didn't cry, but her voice broke just enough to let me know how scared she really was. I never wanted to hurt anyone, especially not you. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I felt like a kid again, standing in the middle of a moral fire I helped light, but didn't know how to put out. "You haven't," I said softly. "But I think we both know this can't go on." She nodded once, eyes wet. "It's not that I don't feel something. I do. I feel everything. That's the problem." That night, we didn't hug. We didn't linger. I left quickly, almost like fleeing, and sat in my truck for 10 minutes trying to steady my breath. I didn't sleep that night. The next few days, we didn't text. For the first time in months, there was radio silence. And I thought maybe that was it. That we had finally reached the end of whatever this was or almost was. But it didn't end, because the feelings didn't go away. A week later, I saw her again. It was unplanned. Kyle had invited a few of us over to watch a game. Jenna was there, making snacks in the kitchen like always. But something about her was different. She didn't meet my eyes. She didn't joke with me. She kept her distance, like she was trying to unwrite every moment we'd shared. And I felt hollow. Like we had buried something alive. Later that night, when everyone left, I lingered in the hallway. She was putting dishes in the sink. I stood behind her, unsure what I was even doing. She turned slightly, her face unreadable. I finally said it. "You don't have to pretend it didn't happen." She exhaled, slow and tired. "I know. But we do have to pretend it never will again." And that was that. After that, we drifted. No more late-night texts. No more coffee on the porch. No more helping with things she didn't really need help with. The secret became a memory sealed between us, never to be mentioned again. And I started moving on. I dated. I worked. I went back to being just Kyle's friend. But every time I visited their house, I felt that same silence, that echo of what almost was. I saw it in the way she avoided my gaze, in the way I made sure never to be alone in a room with her. And yet, the connection never really left. A few months later, I saw her at the grocery store. She was standing by the produce section looking at apples. I almost walked away, but she saw me first. She smiled. Just a little. Hey, she said. Hey, I replied, and for a moment we just stood there, strangers with shared history. Still helping people move furniture? She asked with a gentle smirk. I chuckled. Only when they ask nicely. She looked down, then back up. You okay? I'm getting there, I said honestly. She nodded slowly. Me too. And that was it. No apology, no explanation, just a quiet acknowledgement of something that once was and no longer could be. We haven't spoken since. Not really. And I haven't told Kyle. Maybe I never will. Because what would I even say? Hey man, remember when I helped your mom with furniture? We almost fell in love. No. Some things live better as secrets. And maybe that's what this always was, not a story about betrayal or scandal, but about two people who saw each other in a way no one else did and couldn't bear the truth of it. We didn't break the rules, but we came so close that it still haunts me. And I think it always will. It's been over a year since that final conversation in her kitchen, since the tension between us unraveled into silence, since we quietly chose not to cross the line even though we had tiptoed around it for months. And I still haven't told anyone. Not Kyle. Not my friends. Not even myself in the mirror out loud. Because part of me still doesn't know what to call it. It wasn't an affair. We never touched, never kissed, never did any of the things that make stories like this explode into betrayal. But it also wasn't innocent. We built something in secret, an emotional refuge neither of us had words for. She wasn't just my best friend's mom. She was Jenna. And I saw her, heard her, gave her space to breathe. And in return, she gave me something I wasn't expecting: understanding. Reflection. A strange kind of closeness that felt more honest than anything I'd had in years. And even though we never said it outright, we both knew the truth. If things had been different, if we'd been different, maybe it would have become more. But it didn't. Because we chose not to let it. And that might be the most painful part, knowing what we were capable of and still walking away from it. Not because it wasn't real, but because it wasn't right. Sometimes the hardest decision isn't letting go of something broken. It's letting go of something beautiful because it doesn't belong to you. So here I am, carrying a story I'll probably never tell again. A memory that lives in the spaces between what was said and what wasn't. Between the coffee cups, the porch talks, the silent glances. This was our secret. And maybe that's where it belongs. Have you ever shared a connection that felt too real to ignore, but too complicated to explain? Was there ever a person you understood deeply but couldn't keep in your life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. No names, no judgment, just honesty. And if you've ever been caught in the gray areas of love timing and impossible choices, subscribe for more stories that understand what it means to almost be something. We tell the truths no one else says out loud.